talk
Yeah.
about how mentorship or structure like that has helped in your life to get over things?
It puts bumpers in your gutters. Mentors put bumpers in your gutters because while you're standing at the edge of the field, the mentor sees the tree across the field that you want to get to. But the entrepreneur in the moment is looking down at their feet, putting one foot in front of the other, which sounds great. But if you put one foot in front of your other while you're staring at your feet, you don't go in a straight line. You start veering. Mentors hold the vision for you because they've already walked the path, and they create bumpers in your gutters so that you can just bounce your way down the alley instead of derailing. They help you keep that focus of what is the needle moving activity, what's a different way, right? So I go to my mentors truthfully to tell me what I probably know if I wasn't in my own way.
Welcome to the Spear and Clover podcast, the show where military mindset meets the spirit of the puppy. I'm your host, Jason Skisick, the entrepreneurial evangelist, and each week I bring you the stories of visionaries who see the world as it could be and can't help but take action. Don't forget that this conversation continues in our free Facebook group, Dynasty Builders, where you'll have access to free courses, live trainings, questions and answers, as well as money-making tactics that you can plug and play in your business right away. That group is located on Facebook. You can just search for Dynasty Builders, or you can click the link below this podcast and enter today. You guys, the longer I do this show, the more clearly I identify a great guest when we first meet. I have found that my favorite podcast guests and hosts, to be honest, are not just experts at what they do, but they're dynamic and curious people who are able to bring so much more than one-dimensional conversation while showing authentic interest and having a meaningful dialogue on the show. And with me, at least, it helps if you happen to have cool hobbies. Well, today's guest is one such person. Erin Marcus is an expert brand builder who owns Conquer Your Business, as well as hosts the podcast of the same name. She is passionate about helping entrepreneurs build magnetic brands that draw in ideal prospects over and over again. Better yet, she's a fellow Illinoisan. Is that right? Illinoisan?
Yeah,
She's a
sure.
power lifter and a dog lover and a cat lover. Please welcome my friend, Erin Marcus. Erin, how are you today?
I am awesome. No pressure at all to perform and have a good conversation, but thanks. No, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine.
You know what might be really interesting is if we just tried to intentionally have a bad conversation. I bet you we couldn't do it if we tried, because
No, we
you and
both
I,
are too excitable.
yeah, you and I have chatted. The problem that you and I have run into so quickly is that it's so hard to get off the phone or off the Zoom, because every time it's like, oh, and by the way, oh, really? I did that for 3 years. And it's like we go back and forth. So real quickly, aside from the things that I mentioned, just kind of give the listeners a high level overview of exactly what it is that you do.
Exactly what it is that I do. Conquer Your Business helps create brands and scalable strategies for entrepreneurs who are trying to build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses through a variety of strategic advisory, done with you and done for you services.
That's awesome. And I know we had talked a little bit about this before the show, but and a lot of this today is going to be a little bit inside baseball, maybe more than normal, because we both do a lot of the same stuff or similar stuff. We touch a lot of the same areas. But in this space, there obviously the gold rush digitally, especially since 2020, has been coaching, consulting, solopreneurship, online businesses, right, that allow people to work from home. And I know that so many people start being a strategic coach or a strategic consultant. And as you just kind of mentioned, you can see the more successful folks finding ways to drift towards done with you or even done for you. And I'd love to hear you speak about why that is and why that's beneficial.
So, okay, a couple things. We can go in like 700 different directions. I'll pick like 4, right? So, okay, a couple of things. Number 1, as a business owner, your job is to cast the vision and create the strategy, right? Mm-hmm. Business owner, CEO, is a thinking job, not a doing job. And so as the business owner, the founder, the CEO of my business, I keep a constant look at where am I not serving in a way I could and should be serving, right? Like, where am I failing my clients? Mm-hmm. Your job as a business owner is to solve problems. And one of the things that I saw happening with my clients is we would work together on business strategy and marketing strategy and scaling strategy. And then they would have to go implement those tactics and strategies, right? But the problem was they were great at what they did for a living. They weren't great at building a business. And once we weren't there to do it together, number one, they went back to their busy lives, their busy businesses, their busy days, and they didn't have the time to commit to implementing what we had talked about. Two, they don't have the skill set, not because they're not good or great, but because it's not their wheelhouse. And now here I am, and here they are spending all this money, and here we are spending all this time creating messaging and strategies and marketing plans that now they have to interpret to yet another third party to create the tangible outcome. And there's disconnects there. There's absolute disconnects there. So it became very obvious to me by looking at these things and seeing where did my clients do well and where did my clients not do as well as they wanted. Okay, how can I solve that problem? Was solving that problem just getting a referral partner? Sometimes that's a great answer. But in my world, it made most sense to bring some of my vendor partners in-house and create more full service offers, because that's what was lacking in A, the marketplace, and B, my clients. The other, truthfully, I think is a differentiator. Kind of like what you said, and hopefully this, well, I say hopefully this will rub people the wrong way. Maybe it will, maybe, do I really, you know me, is it really horrible to rub people the wrong way? But there's no barrier to entry in a digital business. There's zero barrier to entry in a digital business. You can have a Facebook page, you can have an Instagram page, a TikTok, Instagram, right? Twitter, still maybe, YouTube, whatever it is. None of those entities have a barrier to entry. You can go get on Canva, and if you have any bit of skill, I don't, by the way, you can make some really pretty looking things that imply you're really good at what you do. And as someone who has actually done what I do for other people, how can I differentiate myself? I can differentiate myself from the people who aren't at the same level by creating the opportunity to turn the idea into an actual outcome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would also add that the while there is this incredibly low barrier to entry, and it may be it may require some level of entrepreneurial taste maybe to differentiate, but what I can tell you is 10% of people could have said what you just said as easily as you said it. And so that are in the space. And so the nice thing is at least for me, and maybe it's just for me, and maybe it's just this taste, because I know you've been in this business a while, you have a ton of experience, you've seen charlatans, you've seen gurus, you've seen whoever, everything in between. Certainly I have firsthand. And I can tell you that I literally had this thought earlier today. I just finished a simple live video to my audience, to my free Facebook group, Dynasty Builders on Facebook. And I was like, that was so simple. But it occurred to me that it actually would have been incredibly, it's taken me years, as it's taken you years, to become the woman who has the answers, right?
Oh my God. So it just so happens that yesterday, thank you, Facebook, was the 3rd anniversary of the Facebook Live that changed it all for me.
Oh, tell me more.
So I used to be terrified of Facebook Live, which is stupid because I can get on stage in front of 1,000 people and be perfectly excitable, happy. I don't know what this was, whatever, it took a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy to solve this problem that I have invested to solve this problem, right? So I think, to your point, it's not because I'm better or smarter than anybody else. It's because I will absolutely not give up until I find a way to make it work.
Undeniable.
Right. Like I'm just that convinced that if this way doesn't work, the next way, I will figure it out. There is no plan B. Right. So 3 years ago, I was trapped in Florida thanks to the COVID shutdown. I had gone to my mom in Florida for her birthday on March 17th, which I had done every year. I went down there on the 13th. I was supposed to come home the 19th. I finally eventually got home in April. I got trapped in Florida. There are worse places to be trapped. You don't have to feel bad for me. However, what I did totally randomly was I went for, I'll call it a run because I'm being very generous with myself. I went for an adventure where I ran, jogged. I'm not a runner. This is not an endurance body, right? But I did do that morning. And I came back and I did a Facebook Live because my coach at the time was challenging me to get out of my own way, get over myself, just freaking do the thing. And I did a Facebook Live and my topic was, what can't you do? What are you telling yourself that you can't do? Because at the time I was telling myself, I'm not a runner. I can't run. Except I just did in Florida with asthma and an elevated heart rate, right? Like in the heat. And so what I did was I meant to go live in my safe little Facebook group of people who loved me. And I pressed the wrong button and I went live on my personal Facebook page.
Sure.
Oops, right? But what happened, and I was a hot mess, like totally, I did everything wrong visually, right? Overheated. I'm one of those people, I don't sweat. I just turn redder and redder and redder, right? So totally red face. I have my sunglasses on, which keeps you from seeing your audience. They can't see your eyes. I was outside. It was noisy. I looked really bad. But the response that I got to it, the response that I got from that live, it took me a minute to realize, wait, why are these people commenting? They're not in my Facebook group.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh my God, look what I did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look what I did. So when you say you do the work to become the person who can say the things that I say, there's truth to that, right? There's truth to that. Because it isn't, I mean, it's an effort and a journey and it's not over and it's a process and it's not new level, new devil. It's new level, same devil, different outfit, right? Like ongoing. And when I talk about the iterations of my business and when I talk about what I'm doing now, it's not just what I see, to your point, it's not just what I see in the marketplace that needs to be solved. It's what have I learned about myself and being an entrepreneur that allows me to take the next steps.
You know what I hear when I hear you talk about it? So what I hear is both of us work with hundreds of entrepreneurs over the course of our career. So many of them cannot get past thinking from themselves out towards their target. And so what that means is they decide, typically I think of this as like feature language, but they decide on what is the thing that I can do for people. And they go, I'm going to then say that out loud to people. And then hopefully the right people will acknowledge that and come towards me. And those same people, when it doesn't work. So when you described earlier, those folks that maybe were getting left on the wayside, that maybe you were working with, they got it, they understood it, they needed it. And then they went back to their businesses and they were too busy. So many people build businesses using that megaphone that goes in one direction. And what you're describing is an iterative and evolving process that clearly indicates a desire to get the result for the client. So instead of thinking about this is what my message is and how I want to say it, what I'm hearing from you is you're going like, okay, this is my message and here's how I want to say it. Fuck, they didn't hear it right, or they can't do it that way, or it didn't get done, or whatever it may be.
I was wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong. That's where it starts.
Don't want that. I was wrong. Like, how hard is it to, again, I have paid a lot of money. I've spent a lot of effort to look you in the eye without any hesitation or any emotion attachment to it and just tell you how many times I'm wrong. Because that's the goal. And yeah, I don't know that I've said this to you before, which I don't know how that's possible because of how many times we've get into these deep conversations, but I go back to where being a powerlifter has helped me embrace failure. Yeah. The goal is failure. The goal is failure. The goal is to get on that platform and figure out what you cannot do and walk right up to the edge of it. And if I haven't gotten to that point, I haven't tried enough, right? I haven't iterated enough. I haven't looked at my formula enough. And it's so funny that we're having this conversation now because I'm in the middle of a live event, a week-long live event that I'm doing while we're recording this. And the first thing I did is the part nobody likes talking to me about, nobody likes working on with me. And it's the reverse engineer, starting with your client avatar, not the demographics, that's easy, but the psychographics and the decision drivers of your ideal client. Because your business isn't about you. Your business isn't about you, it's about them. And if you don't have a massively deep understanding of who it is that you're trying to help, then you're, like you said, you're doing everything from you externally.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just going to have, it's just another version of the bang your head against the wall way of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
It's just harder. It's not impossible, but it's certainly harder.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do based on what you're saying there, and I've sort of realized it while you're talking here, is if we look at, again, DIY, do it yourself versus done with you versus done for you. You said it yourself. Our job as business owners is to solve problems. And if you can think of DIY as like, hey, I figured out this problem. If you can convert it over to your thing, maybe it'll work. That seems like it's dance moves to me. It's like, hey, here are the dance moves. Good luck with your rhythm and timing or whatever. And then like done with you is like, hey, here it is. I'm going to teach it to you, and I'll be here if you need me. It's kind of like training wheels, right? And then like the third thing is like, hey, this is done for you. And then there's two magical things that happen there. One is that person gets to legitimately push the done button. They pay you money, and it's done. That's their huge thing. But the other thing is now you get to be a specialist, and you can find efficiencies, and you can create more value by, like you said, bringing service providers in house. And now you're a category of one, because now what you do is unique and it's completely unrepeatable. I think that's brilliant, and it seems to me like you're ahead of me on that for sure.
Well, it's also specific. It allows me, you mentioned it, it allows me to go from being a generalist to a expert at a more narrowly defined thing.
Uh-huh.
And if you just look at doctors, for example, who makes more money, the generalist that you see or the brain surgeon who solves this one problem?
It's the brain surgeon.
It's the brain surgeon. And it's easier to market, by the way.
Yeah, when you have a brain tumor, you don't ask for a doctor, you ask for a brain surgeon. And
right, like, but it's easier to market when you know the exact thing.
Yep.
Right. And it goes back to truthfully getting out of your own fear that if you niche down, you'll say no to people and you won't have enough business. The opposite is true.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. It's scary. But if you want to help everyone, you actually don't help anyone because you can't find them because they're spread too thin and too wide. But it makes so much of what I'm doing. I think one of the things I have learned, one of the amazing, amazing lessons I have learned in my entrepreneurial journey that has helped so much is, what am I saying no to? Keep saying no to more things, do less things, do less and less and less things. Do what I do, only do what I'm amazing at doing. Surround myself by the people who are amazing at doing their parts at the pieces that have to happen, and then create a really strong boundary that doesn't let us leak, right? That doesn't let us leak into things we shouldn't be touching.
So I'm going to be the fly on the wall for a second. I'm going to be the person listening to this who's like, hey, man, I'm drowning. I just started this business, or I've had it for a little while, and it feels like I need to be everything to everybody. We're making money, but I'm trading my time for it, right? And so how does that person, not me or you, not that even we're above that, I'm just saying, like, speak to them for a second, because I do think but because of our rapport and such a similar language, I think we risk going over the heads of some folks here. So I want to make sure we kind of reset the table. So that person, how did they get to a place where they're specialized and they're swimming instead of drowning?
Sure. One of my favorite things to do is, and it's kind of a relief, that I promise you it's more focus, not more hours. Right? It's more focus, not more hours. It's look at everything you're doing. Like, let's go back to a simple exercise that I've given to my clients. Do it myself all the time. This is what helps me refocus. Write down everything you're doing. And it's going to be a stupid, simple exercise, but it's also like, aha, right? Like, write down everything you're doing. Circle the things that make you money. Only do those things. And your instinct, and I get it, and I've so been there, and it'll suck you back in, but your instinct is to say, okay, but in order to do that money-making thing, I first need to do A, B, C, D, and E. And none of it's actually true. because money comes from other human beings. Money comes from other human beings, which means the only thing, 99% of the time, the only actual thing you need to do, and I'm going to hesitate because I'm going to reverse engineer this for people. The thing that creates space in your business is money. And the thing that creates money is clients.
Mm-hmm.
And clients are people. All you need to do is go talk to other people. Like, it sounds stupid, simple, but I'll give you some examples. I finally, in my 4th year of this business, and as someone who's been on stage for 20 years, I made a speaker sheet. No, I didn't. I made a website page. Like, I don't have one, right? And it's one of those things like, oh, well, can you send me your speaker sheet? No, but I can talk to you if you'd like to talk to me. And I have 30 speaking gigs a year because I talk to other human beings. And I think what happens is we complicate our business and we don't focus on needle moving activities. One, because we don't always know what they are, because it's sneaky. The fear creeps in and keeps us busy doing things that make us feel busy instead of making us effective. So there's that side of it. Business, we all have this story that business is supposed to be hard, especially if you're here in the Midwest where we work very hard. The problem with thinking business needs to be hard is we make it really hard. And especially, I will tell you, the newer your business is, the less complicated it should be, right? We're all getting ready to get ready to be ready to try to be ready to do the thing. Mm-hmm. When if you can just go talk to other people, you can't. I'll give it to you another way. You can't think yourself out of these problems. You can only act your way out of these problems.
Yeah, I think though, I think I agree with you. But the feeling is that I get from people is that they don't know what the action should be. And so maybe this is a good time to talk about why it's important to have mentorship, because to me, I could try to create karate myself in my basement alone, which we've all seen YouTubes of, or I can pay the fee to go learn from the sensei. And so maybe if you could, I know this is a little bit of a turn here, but maybe if you could talk about how mentorship or structure like that has helped in your life to get over things.
It puts bumpers in your gutters.
Yeah.
Mentors put bumpers in your gutters, because while you're standing at the edge of the field, the mentor sees the tree across the field that you want to get to. But the entrepreneur in the moment is looking down at their feet, putting one foot in front of the other, which sounds great. But if you put one foot in front of your other while you're staring at your feet, you don't go in a straight line. You start veering. Mm-hmm. Mentors hold the vision for you because they've already walked the path, and they create bumpers in your gutters so that you can just bounce your way. It's never a perfect straight line, right? So they just bounce your way down the alley instead of derailing. They help you keep that focus, right? They help you keep that focus of what is the needle moving activity, what's a different way, right? It's hard for any of us to see the forest for the trees, right? You can't, we're all too close to our own stories. So I go to my mentors truthfully to tell me what I probably know if I wasn't in my own way, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What is it about you that makes it so you use all of your talents and gifts to help other people with their businesses?
What is it about me? I think it's the effort that I've made to embrace what I'm good at, to be able to say, this is what I know how to do, and simultaneously no longer be harmed, hurt, nervous about what I'm not good at.
Oh.
Right? Like, I think when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I felt like I had to say yes to everyone. It's that scarcity mindset, right? The fear. Feel like you say yes to people that you shouldn't say yes to. Right? It's because you're worried that if you don't have all the answers, someone will think you have none of the answers. Right? It's the insecurity. No, I swear I'm smart enough to do this. Here, let me prove it by telling you every single thing I know, right? Like,
that's the stupidest I've ever sounded when I'm trying to sound smart to somebody I respect. The stupidest. I could name 3 people that you would know by name who I've sounded stupid in front of. because I was trying to impress
500
them.
people in Louisiana who know that I suck as a speaker.
Oh,
Okay?
that's funny. That's funny.
Right. I mean, and I think a couple of things about that as I've learned to absolutely embrace being forthcoming with what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think the unintended consequences of it is people, it's almost a credential, right? It's almost a credential because if someone sees me so willing to say what I don't know, they're like, oh, well, if she says she knows it, she must really know it because she'll be really honest about what she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right. And it's made me more real. It's made me more, because here's the thing about both you and me, you and I, you and me, us. The cadence of my voice will make you think that I know what I'm
Me too.
doing.
Yeah. How many jobs have you gotten that you shouldn't have? I've gotten a bunch.
I've said that to people. Do not
Uh,
confuse the
yeah.
cadence of the
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I speak with
Yeah.
me not having screwed up everything over and over again
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because
I
I'm
definitely,
excitable.
I identify with that strongly.
Right? It
Yeah.
just is. I don't know. It
Yeah.
serves me well when it serves me, and boy, is it brutal. It does.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Huh. So what does it mean to somebody listening to this for them to build a brand?
To build a brand.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does it mean? Okay, first and foremost, what is a brand not? A brand is not your logo. Brand is not your logo. My favorite definition of a brand is how do you want to make people feel? Period, hard stop. How do you want to make people feel? And use that as a litmus test for everything that you say in your messaging, the way you deliver your services, the price points you charge, your market differentiators, your visuals. Yes, your visuals. Using me as an example, my business as an example. I want people to feel beyond empowered and into in power. I want people to know that it's up to them. They get to decide what they have. They have to do the work to make it happen, but it's completely within their grasp and in their control if they so choose. And so my marketing is direct. I'm highly motivating, right? I'm highly motivating because I understand that sometimes I have to hold space for somebody until they can believe it in themselves. My delivery style of my programs is very direct. I give people the disclaimer all the time. I'm not fluffy. I'm direct. I will warn you before you probably need to put your safety bubble on, but I will not blow smoke up your ass because that does you no good. My marketing is education-based marketing because for me to help empower people, they need more information. So regardless of whether or not you say yes to working with me, I want to make sure I'm giving information that helps people. So the brand is, now, what am I not? I'm not a caretaker. I'm not a caretaker. I'm a great problem solver. Not a caretaker. He's downstairs making dinner right now. Like seriously, I know this about myself. I'm not a nurturer. Right? I don't have the mom feel to me. It's just not how I come off. So all of that in alignment, all of those things in alignment is your brand. How people feel after you've left the room, how people feel after they've interacted with your business, whether as a client, as a prospect, as a vendor, referral partner, any of those.
Hmm. That gives me a lot to think about. I don't really have a great question as a follow-up there. It's not something I've thought a lot about. And I feel like when I've tried, just candidly, when I've tried to come up with words or things around brand, I feel like that thing where you go like, hey, what are your core values? And you like look up what McDonald's core values are and you're like, they're that. And it's like, that's sort of a little bit how I feel about brand for me. I did just
Maybe
write down, I did just write something down. I don't know if I'm going to share it, but I did just write something
well,
down that I'll share
so
with you
here's the
offline.
thing. Instead of your response to that is what I would put in the category of give yourself a break, but don't let yourself off the hook.
Yeah. Keep going.
Right, like I have a journalism degree and an MBA in marketing. Words are kind of my thing, right? Like, so it's not hard for me to be articulate because it's the way my brain works. Some people's brains work in visuals. Some people's brains works in sounds. I can't do either of those things. So it's not that you're not articulate, because you are, but maybe your brain just doesn't work that way. And so you need to bounce whatever your gut instinct was, right? Whatever your gut instinct was to that rant.
I wrote that I want to be the general of a volunteer army.
The general of a volunteer army. Okay, so what do you want that volunteer army to?
I don't know. I might cut that out. I'll be honest with you.
I think that's interesting though, because there's a reason, right? There's a reason. So army means something to you.
For sure. And it matches what I do.
Right. Army means something to you, but it's, a deeper dive into, well, what does it mean? What does it represent to you?
Okay, so let me speak to it a little bit. I think that for me, if we're doing this live, which I think we are now, I think what it means is,
and we're turning around the interview.
I think so. I have 13 years under my belt as a CrossFit gym coach and owner, and I think part of it is I do want to lead, but I want you to want me to lead you. I want you to follow me because you want to, not because you have to. And so, to some extent, the brand, whether it's Spear and Clover or this podcast or Facebook or whatever, probably is like, hey, while you're doing your job and building your business or doing whatever it is that you're doing, I'm only thinking about helping you to get better and better. And so I will lead you if you want to be a part of that and follow it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And what I would give you is maybe that's your personal brand and not your business brand.
How are they different?
Because that's about you. It's not about them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I have to leave this in for humility's sake.
But here's another reason to leave it in. This shit's hard.
Yes.
I think that's what people gloss over. My brand was not created the day I started my business. Or within the year I started my business.
Right.
My brand was so messed up the first year of my business that I made $11,000. Okay, so give yourself a break.
Gross? Just want to clarify. Of course. Just wanted to clarify for the audience at home.
It's now called Erin's You're a Failure.
I'm a split hairs on that one.
Come on. Gross. There was no net. It was negative. Right? There's no net when 11,000 is the gross. Trust me on this. There's certainly no triple net when 11,000 is. And it was in part because I had no idea what my brand was and how I wanted to deliver it. And it was all messed up. So I hadn't thought about it. So your brand is iterative. It grows with you. It's sneaky because here you are knowing what you know about business, knowing what you know about personal development. And your gut instinct was still about you, not them. So it's tricky. Which is going back to your earlier question, why you need a mentor to call you out on your podcast and say, Jason, that was about you, not them.
Yeah. That's good.
That's it.
Huh. That's wild. I appreciate that. Erin, there's two questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and I'd like to ask you those two questions now. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Awesome. So the first question is, if you had access to unlimited financial capital, how would you profitably grow your current business?
I would buy an implementation agency. And I would also advertise. I don't currently advertise, literally like paid advertisement. One, because you have to have things dialed in really, really, really well in order for advertisement to work. And we're in an iterative state right now. So it would not make sense. But as much people don't realize, like, good advertising for a consulting business has a higher ROI than real estate. It has a higher ROI than stock market. So I'm not ready for it because, again, I'm in this middle of this iteration.
Mhm.
But making that purchase of a full-on implementation agency to take that next step and advertising would be the two things I would do.
Love it.
By the way, those will both happen by the end of this year or next year.
Sweet.
That's how we do
Yeah.
things. But
I love it. I mean, and also if you were listening, you would have picked up that what you described wouldn't necessarily, it wasn't the linchpin wasn't the capital. The linchpin was your agency being fixed and ready
yeah,
to, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's
So
not the right time. It's just not right the
the
time.
capital would help, but it wouldn't matter. Yeah. Okay. So question number 2 is, if you had to give it all up, if you had to give up every business you've ever had anything to do with and try a whole new business you've never tried before, what do you think that might be?
Do I have to have a business or can I go do something else?
You could do something else. Yeah, I don't care. As long as
I
it's
want to
not,
be a
yeah,
large animal vet.
that's a
Except
business. Yeah.
I'm 52 years old and I don't know math. So
That's
I
so
don't know
funny.
the likelihood of this happening.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I did a trainer for a day at the Mirage in Vegas, and the most hysterical picture is me in the cooler with the vet, and he's pointing, and I have the most in awe look on my face. And what he's pointing at is a board that shows the fat content of frozen fish and what dolphin eats what,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like, and I've done he let me help do a urine sample on a dolphin. I've done training. Like, had someone told me, like, I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but if somebody would have made me stay in school and actually done school, or gone to a school that was not Chicago public schools in the 70s, so I had an education from the beginning, that's where I would have gone.
Oh, that's awesome. Shout out to, I'm going to connect you with Steve O'Whaley. He's my brother from down under, who's a vet, and he's also a vet coach. So
Oh,
he
nice.
would, I'm
Love it.
sure he could hook you up there.
Love it. Love
Well,
it. Love it.
Erin, this has been awesome. We got a little deep here today. I'm so excited. You and I could record for 6 hours straight, I am sure. And we're going to have to hang out and lift someday because
Yes.
we're pretty geographically close to each other. Anybody still listening to this, the reason they're here, it's not me, it's you. So please let them know where they can find you and learn more about how you help people.
Awesome. We make it really easy. Conqueryourbusiness.com. Conqueryourbusiness.com. There's ways to get a hold of me, but there's also podcasts. They can come listen to you and watch you in the hot seat instead of me on my podcast. But yeah, conqueryourbusiness.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming by, Erin. You're welcome back anytime.
Awesome.